Hello everyone, it's wonderful to know you're right there waiting for Joy Asonye live and right here on time. We are here. If you recall, for those who watched the program, we've been discussing the NNPP crisis. That's the new Nigeria People's Party internal crisis. Yesterday on the program, we had the national zonal vice chairman South who gave us what his side of the story, what he thought could be the reason for this, and how the NNPP can forge forward, especially as we have 3 off-cycle elections. 3 states in the country are going for elections. It's more than important that parties at this moment stay focused and show a united front. Well, having heard from what seemed to be a new faction of the NNPP, we have yet another. That is the chairman of the NNPP Ekiti State and spokesperson of the NNPP Chairmen Forum. If you remember, that's the forum that championed the suspension of their national leader, the presidential candidate of the party. These chairmen were aggrieved. We'll get to their side of the story. You know, here on Joy Asonye Live, we try to balance. Well, we have Olayinka, Olabode, Dada right here with us, Chairman NNPP Ekiti State and spokesperson NNPP Chairmen Forum. Thank you so much for being part of the program.
Yeah, Josh, it's good to be here. Thank you for having me.
We try to balance our reports so that it's not one-sided. So I'm happy you came when I invited you, because I'm sure people at home have questions, and that's what we'll get to. But that will be after this short break, so stay tuned. It promises to be interesting. Welcome back from that break. Like I said, we are getting to unravel the NNPP crisis. That's a party that a lot of Nigerians had thought has hope, but we never knew that they're having the big boy issues. We've seen other political parties in Nigeria. I think that's the background we'll start. Why do we have political parties always in crisis? Nobody seems to be absolved from it. I mean, the LP has their own, the PDP has their own, the APC as well. It seems like structures always and intentions always differ. First of all, why do you think that is?
Joy, thank you very much for this very wonderful question. The simple truth is that political crises tend to run into troubles when a few individual or a group of persons feels that it is their own right, you know, to have the party to themselves. A political party is an association of people where people contribute ideas, you know, to move the political system forward. It is not just a one-man show. It is a collective idea of people, you know, coming together to change, you know, the governance system. But these parties tend to go into crisis at moments when you see people, you know, trying, you know, to dominate others or trying to exclude others from what ordinarily they, you know, were part of. And that is where we are in the New Nigeria People's Party at the moment.
Okay, I knew this would break the ice. I don't want that tension. I mean, there's so much going on. First of all, the suspension of your national leader and your presidential candidate. A lot of us looked at him as one who kept the party going. Why suspending him right now? Others have said that the allegation that he was hobnobbing with other political parties was just something you put out there because you had no tangible reason to suspend him.
Joy, you are a Nigerian, like every one of us and the viewers at home. And for anyone to have this notion that those of us who felt that it is high time that we really canvass this idea of a new Nigeria. First of all, the name of the New Nigerian People's Party connotes something, meaning that we want to do something different. And if you look at all these characters who have been ravaging the political system for years, they've been moving from one political platform to the other. This political party came together as a party that is desirous of giving Nigerians a new direction, a new hope, a new focus, and also forming a government that can be people driven. Of course, as a political party, we are not immune to disagreement. Every association of people must have some form of disagreement at one point or the other. But there must be internal mechanism through which, very true internal mechanisms, sincere internal mechanisms put in place through which these issues, can be resolved. Yes, the party has suspended Engineer Rabi Musa Kwankwaso for a period of 6 months, permissible in the constitution of the New Nigerian People's Party.
Yes, I read
Why
that.
was he suspended? You are a Nigerian. Prior to the 2023 elections, why the major political parties were running campaigns everywhere in this country, the PDP presidential candidate was campaigning for his party to win. The Labour presidential candidate was campaigning for his party to win. It is on record that severally Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso had to defend himself of either being misquoted for trying to identify with the candidate of the All Progressive Congress.
He wasn't alone in that, actually. We had those suggestions and speculations from all the candidates at the time.
He was the only one who said at that time that if he were not to be in the race, he would have preferred Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, because they were long-term friends. So these are very sensitive statements. While you were crisscrossing the length and breadth of the country, campaigning and asking Nigerians to vote for you under a new political platform that Nigerians were beginning to identify with as at that time, it sends a signal out.
Let me get something straight. Is one of your accusations that he did not campaign for himself?
Of course. What I am trying to say is that the language you use during election, before election, during your campaign, and after election matters a lot. People are now very discerning in this country. And if you look at the 2023 general elections, you actually agree with me that Nigerians made attempts to surprise the system, to change the system. And which political platforms were these people really looking up to? They were looking up to Labour Party and the New Nigerian People's Party. So the body language of the presidential candidate of these political parties means a lot to the mass followers who are out there, willing to make a change in the system. Now, let us stop at that. Immediately after the general elections, we are all aware that some political parties went to court to challenge the infractions, the obvious infractions that occurred during that electionary process. We had issues with INEC. We had issues about not uploading the results on IRF real time. We also had issues like some political parties not being able to identify their names on the ballot papers. NNPP as a political party had that issue. And one of the reasons why the party had a dismal performance
was that the logo
was the fact that the logo of this party was not visible on the ballot. And if you look at the electoral laws of this country, it is one major infraction that can be adduced to the Independent National Electoral Commission, because before these ballot papers were printed, you as a political party would have submitted your logo, your names, and all of that.
And so before the elections, you were also supposed to have done your inspection, just like other political parties, right before the election.
Of course, it is possible that that window of opportunity may not have availed itself, going by what the scenarios that played out, before the presidential election. But however, what we are saying is that once this obvious error has been identified immediately during the election. We noticed this during the election because a lot of our members who went to the polling booths to cast their votes could not vote for this party because they could not identify the logo of the party. And logo in an electoral circle is very, very, on election day is very, very important. Some people may not even know the name of the party, but identify the logo. Some people may know the name of the party, and you may need to sensitize them before election about the logo. But in this instance, what we had was the logo. That logo means a lot. So a lot of people even voted for Young People's Party when they could not identify the logo.
You have the evidence of this.
Yes, of course, it happened in my own state of Ekiti State.
Now, let me understand why this is part of the problem, because did he make a unilateral decision not to contest this in court?
I am a member of the National Executive Committee of this party.
Right.
The NEC is the third most important layer
of the party.
The second, National Convention, the BOT, the NEC, and the National Working Committee. Naturally, what should have happened if there was a genuine intention to challenge these infractions, if there were no identifiable or holy alliances between some characters within our party and the other political parties, it was enough ground for us to challenge the results and outcome of that election.
So you believe that what the NNPP did was abysmal, in spite of the House of Rep members? You even have a governor and a senator that you have. You believe you did badly.
What if the House of Rep members and the Senate and the governor were products of these same negotiations we're talking about? We're talking about serious case of anti-party here.
Now that is interesting. You also speculate that they could have given and taken.
It is no longer a speculation.
No, I mean, you don't
the
have
presidential candidate of the party would not have been suspended if we were still speculating. We have enough evidences to prove that this man was involved in anti-party activities. And I was going there by saying that immediately after these infractions were noted, after the conclusion of the presidential elections, what should have happened naturally would have been for the party, the presidential candidate, to report to the party that we have noted these infractions. After all, he contested to rule the affairs of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, to become the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And if in that process he was cheated, he would no longer become the only person that was cheated in that system. I was cheated, my followers was cheated, people who voted for him too were cheated. So there is more to it than him alone deciding the fate of that party.
That's exactly what I'm asking. I don't think you really answered that question. You've talked about the National Working Committee. You've talked about the National Executive Committee.
He should have.
About the convention. Was it not unilaterally agreed that you would not go to court?
That is what I am saying. That the process they should have followed was to call the appropriate organs of the party to discuss the possibility of either going to court or not. Rather, what they did was to keep mute, and the presidential candidate and his spokesman, Engineer Abubakar Galadima, said they do not have the money to pursue a court case.
Is that possible? Because we also know that he was funding the party. The party was funded by him, rather.
By who?
By Senator
The party was funded by the ordinary members of this political party. Put me on record anywhere and at any time that this political party, since Engineer Rabi Ugbosa and his TNM group and Kwankwasia group came into this party in March 2022, nobody funded the party. Not one person. The little funding that was coming into the party was still coming from the founder of the party, Dr. Boniface Okechukwu Anebunam, who is also the chairman, board of trustees of this party. We will get to that later.
We will get to that because it's getting really interesting, this anti-party accusation that you have. But it's quite convenient that this whole thing came after your suspension and 10 other members, state chairman within the party. After that suspension, it seems like you now remember that you have a grudge against your presidential candidate.
That didn't happen at that time. what actually happened was that there have been grumblings immediately after the election that this man really did not come out to win the presidential election. The general feeling amongst the generality of our party members was that Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso only needed Kano. I remember he has had a very long standing battle in Kano State, starting from 2015 when he left and Ganduje became governor of Kano State. In 2019, he supported his in-law to take over, to contest against Ganduje. Whatever happens at that time, 2023 the same thing. Now, the general feeling amongst party members is that Kwankwaso only went into this presidential contest for him to be able to regain the control of Kano State. And if you look at the outcome of the results of the last election, you realize that it was only in Kano that the party was able to win, some offices. And
so you are saying that the reason Ekiti did not win for NNPP is because of this logo problem? You believe that you actually had... No, I want to know, because I know that I as a journalist, I mean, I recorded and followed up all the activities at the time. I remember even having offices across the country, and I remember having conversations, and I heard from the leaders before this faction actually, that Senator Kwankwaso was sponsoring the establishment of this offices across the country.
That is not
true.
But
let's go to Ekiti State, where you are the state chairman, or you were the state chairman at this point. I don't know how to say at the time. What would you say was the problem, and why were you absolved in this suspension that happened by the BOT and the National Working Committee and that punitive committee? I'm not sure how you people put it. The committee that was set, disciplinary committee rather. What happened in Ekiti State, and how did you get mentioned in the list of state chairmen that were
well, let me just tell you that all this gale of suspension,
I like that word,
were a mere smoke screen from the real intention of the perpetrators, the originators of this whole crisis. The real intention is that the Kwankwasia movement, 4 different groups, pressure groups, came together to form New Nigeria, to fuse into New Nigerian People's Party. Right. The only political party that was standing as at the time of this fusion was New Nigerian People's Party. This party was founded 21 years ago by Dr. Boniface Anebonam. And when Kwankwaso was looking for a platform to run his presidential ambition, he had already gone to People's Redemption Party. He was rejected. He went to Accord Party. They were rejected. They went to Dr. Boniface Anebonam's hometown in Anambra State to beg him for the use of this platform, which the man graciously obliged. Now, that gracious obligation to be a good Nigerian has now turned to a huge embarrassment.
How did that happen is what I
want to know. It is because these people want to take over this power, this party, hijack it.
Let me get something. When you say these people, you mean the Kwankwasia group?
The Kwankwasia group.
Right. Just the Kwankwasia.
Kwankwasia group is not a political party.
It's not.
Kwankwasia are just followers of Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso. So they are not a political party.
Right. But you had massive membership at the time when they came, because he did not hide his popularity. He enjoyed popularity.
Nobody is arguing about anybody can have followers. For you to be a politician, you must have some followers, with you. No leader can exist in isolation. Now, nobody is arguing that. But now, when you want to foist the leadership of your own group on the generality of all other collaborators in that fusion, it becomes a problem. You have the NAGAF, you have the TNM, you have the Kwankwasia, and you have NNPP that was a registered political party in since 2021. So what the Kwankwasia group intended to do, as instructed by Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso is to take over the political leadership of the whole of NNPP in every of the states.
Okay, let's get back down to business. What was your political orientation before this re-infusement? Were you the original NNPP, or you were the NAGAF or the TNM?
Unfortunately, I came from the TNM. I came from the Kwankwaso group. I was part of the Kwankwaso group that fused into NNPP. And we came into NNPP on March 1st, 2022.
Then that means you are part of the Kwankwasia that you claim he wants to remove. Why then would you think he would target the life?
I support ignoble actions because I belong to a group that is oppressing other partners in an arrangement? I don't think that is right.
If indeed what you say is true, then you wouldn't have been targeted for this unjust suspension, or do you think your suspension was not unjust?
It is an unjust suspension, and it will remain so for as long as those who carried out this unjust act do not have the conscience.
Is there a reason why you're not getting
now what
this disciplinary committee? What where were you accused of?
Now you have just gotten to the real gist.
Yes.
There's a Latin word that say odi otarem patem. It is a law of natural justice.
Right.
Shortly after the abysmal performance of Engineer Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso in the presidential election.
Right.
And for us, the state chairmen, who endured all of the sufferings, especially you can imagine those who were chairmen from the southern part of Nigeria, you know very clearly that the agitation for a southern president at that time
was right
of electioneering was right. So for you to even exist as a chairman of a political party campaigning for a northerner in a southern state, you must have done that at personal risk to your life.
It was that dangerous?
It was that dangerous.
Okay, so
now, having survived all of that.
So did you campaign for your presidential candidate in your state?
I went everywhere with him. He came to my state. I organized with funds mobilized by the party in the state, not funds mobilized by them or by the national secretariat of the party, as it then was, to host him in a presidential rally. No one was given by him for that purpose.
Okay.
By him.
Now something
you are going to I am going somewhere. You ask the issue of the disciplinary committee after the whole election and the abysmal performance. They now said they wanted to restructure. Everybody would love that the party goes through restructuring.
Right.
Now you wrote letters about 18 states were to be invited.
18?
Yes. So they were taking it sequentially. So the first set of the states that were invited, Abia State happened to be part of the first set. They wrote to us on July 13. I was in Ado-Ekiti on July 13. I was to be in Abuja on July 14. By 12 o'clock in the morning to attend a disciplinary panel. And in the letter sent to us, it was indicated that there are petitions written by members of the party in our state.
Right.
Getting to the panel, indeed, there was no letter written by anybody. There was no petition shown.
Did you ask?
Of course. I asked them, and I said, ordinarily, I wouldn't have honored this invitation because you ought to have sent to me a copy of the petition that was written, against whoever. But however, because the party is supreme and you have asked us to come, we are here. No issue of Antiparty was discussed at that panel.
At that panel, you were not accused of any.
Nobody accused me.
At no point in that panel were you accused of having supported a candidate of.
Nobody. There is no evidence anywhere.
But was there a time in Ekiti State that the structure was given to another person?
In
any of the strata of the
joy, nothing of such happened, and these are. That is why I gave you that Latin word. You understand? Odi, otarem, patem. You must be able to prove the allegations against whoever that is being alleged. So no petition was shown. However, after defending the state working committee and the executive of my party at the state level, being the chairman, we were asked to go. We left, and
after defending,
right, they asked questions without any petition, without anything.
Can you share some of those questions that were asked?
The questions that were asked were primarily 3 questions. Tell us what you do before, during, and after election.
What you did.
What you know.
What you know.
Before, during, and after election. First question. Second question. Party. That some candidates complained that they were not mobilized, for the election, and I brought out documents to prove. As a matter of fact, I do not even need to go and prove to them, because they were the ones who sent monies to the accounts of these candidates directly. So it shouldn't have even been a question thrown at us, because the national headquarters of the party, or whoever is in charge, sent money. They only requested the chairman, the state chairman, to furnish them with the names of the candidates, which we did, their names and their phone numbers. They called them themselves and got their phone account numbers and sent money to them directly. So why are you coming to ask me what you did on your own? That is secondly. On the third one, yes, certain persons were supposed to resign, from the party. Maybe certain officials of the party who later became, candidates. But in a situation whereby you do not have replacements for them, what do?
You double in the work.
You don't even need to double. You leave the positions vacant, and whoever is next in position to such people assume that responsibility in acting capacity. How does that become the problem?
Mr. Dada, we need to go for a short break. Like they say in local parlors, the pressure is getting worse, and this is where we'll go for a short break and then return to discuss more. Still discussing the NNPP internal crisis and if there is such a way to forge forward. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is still Joy Asonye live here on KAFTAN television, and if you've been following the story, we're unraveling that internal crisis that the NNPP, that's the New Nigeria People's Party, seem to be having. And we've been discussing with Olayinka Olabode Dada. He's the spokesperson, NNPP Chairmen Forum. We'll get to how he became the spokesperson for the chairman in the NNPP, and he's also the chairman NNPP Ekiti State, and right now I don't know if to say the struggling chairman, because are you still the chairman?
I am not embattled.
The embattled.
I am not embattled. I think it is prejudice to talk about issues that are already before court. I have.
Is this issue before a court
yes,
right
it
now?
Is before the court.
Because I was also furnished with a document when I was discussing this yesterday of your appeal to the disciplinary committee or the national, I'm not sure, but to the NNPP administration. But let's go into this disciplinary committee that was set up. You have told us some of the questions, and what was your response before we even get to your appeal that I saw yesterday?
There are two responses I gave. You cannot ask me to account for money you did not send to me.
But was there for any reason monies were sent to you? Of course, you must have had to deal with logistics.
No, nobody sent any money to me.
At all?
I had to force what belongs, to the agents out from the man they sent money to. So nobody sent money to me. Ordinarily, you shouldn't have asked me about money.
But is that how the NNPP works?
That is how they operate. And one of the reasons why they have that poor performance. Now, let us leave that. We will have another day to discuss all of that. The disciplinary committee, they told you just like you said now, you heard that I wrote an appeal letter.
I saw it. Now,
you invited us to a panel on July 14. And by July 28, you pronounced the whole executives in about 10 states dissolved. No reason. Remember, I told you earlier that there was no petition shown to those that were alleged. On what basis did you form your conclusion to have dissolved people that you did not show, evidence of, their act of indiscipline against the party?
Okay, you had earlier, we will get there, but you had earlier alleged that it was the Kwankwasia group that was intentionally trying to fuse in their own people, the Kwankwasia people,
yes,
across.
It was a strategy.
So would you say it was a strategy?
Yes,
in your
it
work?
was a strategy that is now failing.
However, you are a Kwankwasia person.
I am not a Kwankwasia member.
You were the.
You
came in from the Kwankwasia.
I am not a Kwankwasia. I am a member of the national movement. The national movement.
The national movement. That's where you came in from.
Yes.
Right. How many other people were affected who were of maybe the NAGAP and NNPP and the national movement?
Now let me tell you, when this marriage happened between these
four groups,
the founder of the party left with some loyal chairmen in some states. I think he had about 11.
What do you mean by left?
The man left. He was the national chairman of the party.
Okay.
He left the executive structure and everything for them, and transformed. He now became the chairman of the board of trustees.
Right.
So as he was leaving, of course, he has worked with people for 21 years. There must have been people who have sacrificed for the party. So he had 11 states that were ceded to him. By October last year, this man adopted me and my state as the 12th.
About Chief
Adebonam adopted me as the 12th state under that arrangement. Now the Kwankwasia group had already targeted these 11 states as states that they need to weed out so that they can now implant their own people. And that is what you are saying. It is not about any anti-party activity. If you are talking about any anti-party activity, I'm even going to go there. But there is one point I really want to bring out on this issue of disciplinary committee. The constitution of this party is very clear on the procedure for disciplining any member of the committee.
Right.
Now, you have confirmed here that they said that I wrote an appeal letter. Now, you called us to a panel on the 14th. By 28th, you proclaimed the executives at all levels dissolved.
Was that the time that you now wrote that?
By July 31st, by July 28th was the announcement of this dissolution. By July 31st, I had caused our legal counsel at the state level to write to say that this decision, we are appealing against it because you did not even tell us.
Hearing, right.
There is a section of the constitution that says that a section of NNPP constitution that made it mandatory that you must be given, fair hearing.
Okay.
And that is section 39.011, which says that any hearing member called for any disciplinary action shall enjoy a right to fair hearing. That is all members. So what is for fair hearing? If people write a petition against you in this your working place, Joy, and you were to face maybe a panel, won't you be availed a copy of what you offense you must have committed?
Is it not the fair hearing? You ask questions concerning the petition, you give responses,
and they did not give you. So how did they arrive at the decision that they took?
Maybe your responses were not
what are you responding to? What are you responding to?
To the petitions that is
where is the petition
sent to you?
There was no petition, and that is what we are saying, and that is what I'm trying to bring out by saying that these people had already concluded that these 11 states plus my state must be taken so that they cannot be fully in charge of the 36 states and their cities.
However, were there in your words, having conversed, you are the spokesperson of the Chairmen Forum, were there indeed chairmen in some of these states that were mentioned that indeed gave the structure? Because we also read about
that indeed gave
the structure of the party to certain endorsing certain candidates in other states, because we saw that it was rife during the
I only know of a state where the chairman was alleged of withdrawing a case in court. A case instituted by the gubernatorial candidate. He was alleged of withdrawing that case in court.
No, that's not what I mean. I'm talking about during the elections where the chairman that
gave
their party structure to another
Joy, if it happened in any other state, I am not aware. And in my own state, it never happened. I am the spokesman of the chairman. No state chairman has been able.
Okay.
They have not been able to challenge any state chairman as per the allegations, they said people laid against them. So if you have not shown a copy of your petition, what are you responding to?
So before now, I mean, the National Working Committee must have agreed, the NEC could have agreed, the BOT in fact agreed before having this disciplinary committee, right? The committee that called you on.
Joy, what the Constitution says is that upon receipt of any complaint against any member of the party, the National Working Committee, without discussing that matter, shall cause a fact-finding committee. Fact-finding committee, okay, they have reported Joy to KAFTAN TV, and Amadi now asked to find out what Joy did. Right. That means that fact-finding committee would approach you and try and know. Now, after the fact-finding committee must have made its findings, they will now return back, to they will now form the disciplinary committee, who will now invite. Once the disciplinary committee now invites you, the report of the disciplinary committee will now have to go to NWC. NWC, you understand, will now sit at that time to discuss it.
Okay. Once the NWC, so now we just have an hour and we've really gonna run out of time. But let's talk about the BOT at the time when this disciplinary committee was mentioned. He too was not pleased with what happened. That's the impression my viewers.
How will he be pleased? Because he knows that the NWC had committed infractions, illegalities.
No, what I mean is at the time he felt not happy with the chairman, and he was good with the disciplinary discipline that was made.
That is not true.
It was also alleged that the National Publicity Secretary, that Dr. Agbo, right, was the one who gave the template for this. So how did it all change that the BOT chairman, who was not pleased with the chairmen who were dissolved at the time, the national secretary who wrote out the template, how did it happen that everything turned around?
The National Public Secretary.
Right.
That is the story they are telling you. Of course, they set up the disciplinary committee, which Dr. Major Agbo was part of, the then National Public Secretary and now acting chairman of the party. He was part of the disciplinary committee, and going by the schedule, the description of his job, he had to make announcement when the NWC sat and took that decision, but that does not mean that he does not have his personal opinion or that he hadn't advised them against that decision that was being taken. But he was at that time the publicity secretary of the party, and he had to do his job, which he did, and thereafter he disagreed with them.
Right. Let's go to how the meeting with Chief Boniface Anebunam, who convened a meeting with the state chairman, the embattled state chairman at the time. What was discussed? Was it also mentioned at that meeting that the only way forward was to suspend the national leader, that's your presidential candidate?
There was no connivance. As a matter of fact, Dr. Boniface did not invite the chairman. The chairman, having lost hope in the NWC as illegally constituted then, before their dissolution some 2 days ago, had to go to the BOT. The constitution of the party expressly donated some powers to the BOT.
But for the advisory power?
If somebody tells you that as chairman of this interview now, you have a power to review, to call to order any action that is at variance with the norms of the party.
Is explicitly written in your constitution?
That is what is explicitly written in section 12.1, 2, 3, and 4. I can read it for you, Joy.
You don't have the time, but
now
let
us leave that.
Now
we went to the BOT chairman and complained that we have been denied fair hearing.
Right.
And having listened to us, the man called them. I said, you have denied them fair hearing. Follow the procedure. He is not against discipline any member of the party, but you have to follow the procedure as laid down in the constitution. And when they turned deaf ear, the man now invoked.
Who did he call? Let's get something straight. The
national chairman of the party, the national secretary of the party, all members of the national working committee.
Right.
He called all of them and told them that, look, I have these complaints and you have to treat it on merit. And treating it on merit means that you have to follow
the constitution,
fair hearing, grant them fair hearing. Now they turned deaf ears. And the man,
time frame to it, because I want to know if maybe there was.
I wrote an appeal, like you said, they told you. The constitution guaranteed me as the chairman in my state, and the members that I am, leading, the constitution guarantees that after that appeal, they shall within 7 days give a response. Now let me tell you what happened. After dissolving on the July 28th, and we went to the BOT, I wrote them on July 31st, we went to BOT first week in August. Immediately we met with the BOT. That 7 days counted, they did not reply me. The next letter they sent was suspension. Have they acted in accordance with the constitution?
How long was your suspension?
They said 6 months.
Was that too much?
Of course.
For peace to reign.
Of course.
Because I'm getting to some.
Of course, I am not suspended. Because I am not suspended. Because the composition of the committee they even set up. Let me tell you, there's a section in this constitution which renders even everything they have done a nullity.
Okay.
The constitution expressly said that any disciplinary committee at any level shall be comprised of only 5 members. But if you listen to their statements and their press statements and the composition of that committee, they were 7. In composing, in setting up a disciplinary committee, have they not gone against the spirit and letters of the constitution?
Let's get to Kwankwaso's Rabiu Kwankwaso's suspension.
Yes.
How did you decide 3 months would be enough punitive? Did you also have a disciplinary committee, or did you follow this section 39.1 of your constitution in addressing the suspension of the national leader?
The BOT took that decision. Unfortunately, I am not a member of the BOT of the party, but the constitution of the party has donated express powers to the BOT to call to order or to review any decision. Now, if the BOT has suspended taking that decision, and there was a General Assembly meeting that held after the BOT meeting to ratify it, Why should I not be part of people to ratify such a decision? Because there were clear cases of anti-party. What was Kwankwaso doing in France with Tinubu? What was he doing in Nassau Rock? What were the discussions they were having? Was it not at a point mooting the idea of running in that government of national unity?
Exactly.
Is that not anti-party?
Is that not something you should applaud? Let your presidential candidate bring this laudable...
That presidential candidate ought to have gone to court to go and fight for the mandate of those who voted for him. In my state, he didn't score 0 vote in the state.
Okay.
So meaning that some people voted for him in the state.
I don't want us to go back to the conversation we've already had. But the BOT has suspended Kwankwaso for 3 months. I think that was the time frame that was given.
6 months.
6 months was the time frame that was given. You can understand that it seems like it's vindictive. Okay, I asked you to recall this certain state chairman, and you refused.
Was the BOT not suspended, Joy? The BOT chairman, the same constitution.
I'm getting there. Okay. Now, I want to know the structure that the BOT now has, because I've had conversations with the other part, the other side, and I get to learn that the National Working Committee and the entire National Working Committee, the neck of the organization, all the parties, chairman, in fact, they seem to have replaced other chairmen. Who owns the structure of the NNPP as we speak?
The structure of NNPP remains intact. Now the NWC you are talking about is composed of illegal people. This constitution also provided for means of replacing vacant positions. Let me tell you, Professor Faakani was the national chairman of this party. Immediately after election, he resigned. The deputy national chairman of this party resigned. Right. Senator Ompuyi, whom they went together to go and meet at Bonham to beg for the use of this party, resigned from the party. I don't know if you have a copy of his letter of resignation, because he said he can no longer stay in a party where impunity reigns.
Was he referring to the board of trustees, or he was referring?
He was referring to the NWC.
Well, he did not say that in that.
No, my dear Joy, these are facts and they are in public domain.
Yes, but
now,
he was not specific.
He was talking about replacements. What this constitution talked about was that if you have to replace any officer of the party, whether by reason of resignation or death or whatever, there are procedures to follow. You have to call for a state congress, meaning that if somebody from my state is on the NWC and has resigned, that means I have to hold a state congress, nominate that name, send that nomination to the zone will now send to national, which is now represented by NEC to ratify. Now the incumbent, the so-called acting national chairman of the party, who nominated him?
That's the question I should ask you.
So that is why we are telling you that NWC, every action being taken by them, because the NWC itself is an illegal body. So any action taken by that NWC is illegal, null and void in the face of the law.
Based on the fact that
it is illegally composed.
Okay.
It is illegally composed. So the only standing organ of the party that is not affected by all this game of illegality is the BOT. And that is the conscience of the party. And the man has tried to call them to even mitigate, the effect, and ensure that even this illegality is managed and they do the right thing, by correcting them. Now, why are they just calling for NEC meeting just day before yesterday?
Dada, elections are coming. We still have off-circle elections that are coming up in a couple of months, that 11th of November. What is going to happen? Have you replaced your candidates? Are you working with the candidates that are already in place? What's going on there?
NNPP,
you say NNPP is intact.
NNPP remains NNPP. What has simply happened is that the tenants have left the house for the landlord. It is impossible for tenants to chase away landlord in his own house, and the landlord now has retaken his party. So the tenants have now moved away. Whoever is in NNPP genuinely remains in NNPP. Those who came with the intention to use the party and were given and now wants to hijack it and have been resisted are now leaving the party. Nothing is wrong with NNPP.
Okay,
the NNPP structure remains.
It doesn't remain. You're saying it remains, but you have another acting national chairman. You have an acting national chairman.
We have NNPP and the Kwankwasia group.
No, the NNPP still has a chairman, and it seems to have a parallel acting national chairman. I'm saying this because during the meeting that was that had happened a couple of days ago, INEC recognized that meeting and attended. So it begs the question, what's going on here? Because people are wondering, what should they do come 11th of November?
By next week, Joy. Because what we are discussing here is political. When we go to the legal, INEC is not above the court of the land.
Right.
And as it stands now, there are gales of litigations coming against this illegal NWC. And by the time the court looks at the merits of these issues, you and I will have a time to now come and justify this.
Olayinka Olabode Dada, Chairman NNPP Ekiti State, spokesperson of the Chairmen Forum NNPP. Thank you so much for being part of the program. It was interesting having you.
Thank you so much for having me, Joy. It's my pleasure.
Well, it's been wonderful talking about the internal crisis in the NNPP, but this is where we end today's edition of Joy Asonye Live. We'll be back tomorrow to discuss more. Do have a wonderful evening.